The Italian province of Veneto is seeking to break away from Italy and has declared a referendum. However, Rome has shown no signs of agreeing to secession. And let's now take a look at why the region is so significant. Veneto is the fifth most populous region in the country, with 5 million people living there. But its main city, which is Venice, is the #1 tourist attraction with 14 million visitors every year. And it's also one of the richest provinces in Italy, accounting for 10% of the national GDP. RT's Rina Galushko has more.
People here believe that they have an absolute right for independence. They say they don't want to have Rome as a bureaucratic entity ruling over them. They believe it's simply unfair because their earnings are going over to Rome in order to make up for Italy's financial woes. As a matter of fact, if Veneto does secede from Italy, they're also looking to leave the euro, to leave the EU, and leave NATO as well. It looks like nobody in Europe seems to have any idea about the independence referendum happening in Venice at the moment, but it's not something that has just suddenly crept up. As a matter of fact, the movement and the idea of the referendum for independence has been floating around in the region for several decades at this point and has been actively in the works for the last several years. Yet people in Brussels and officials in Europe believe that this referendum is not legitimate, and therefore they choose to disregard it as something unimportant. There's hardly any news about it, unlike, of course, the idea of a referendum in Crimea. Again, some believe that if this does indeed happen and Veneto does become independent, at least in its own right, it will actually change the face of Europe as we see it right now. In Venice, Rina Galushko, RT.
Voting ends by Friday, but opinion polls suggest that secession is supported by most locals. The referendum itself carries no legal weight, but campaigners say that a yes vote would lay the groundwork for independence. And one of those behind the movement thinks Rome will eventually have to agree.
There's an absolute majority of people that will vote yes. This will be legitimize the delegates that will be elected by this referendum to take immediate action. I've seen already the draft of a Declaration of Independence. A scholar is working on, and it's almost done, will be presented at the end of the month, also a draft of a constitution. They are just waiting to be legitimized by a popular vote to stop paying taxes to the Italian state and to pay it to local authorities in Veneto.